Greetings from Costa Rica and welcome to this Friday broadcast here on the Costa Rica Matt Real Estate Channel. I'm joined by Camille, our resident property rental expert. Camille has managed rentals here in Guanacaste for how many years?
15 years now.
15 years in property management, so she has an entire skill set that I do not have and I choose to ignore as much as possible. Today, we're going to be talking about rental trends here in the high season of 2025. We're going to ask Camille about this rental season, how things are going and what she's seeing. We're going to ask her for tips that she can give to rental owners. We'll talk about rental rates. We're also going to ask her how she is setting her rental rates compared to 2024. And then we're going to look through 3 different properties that we're going to use sort of as case studies: Cabinas Corazón de Tamarindo, Rancho Coco in Playa Negra, and the Flor y Bamboo Glamping Hotel in Playa Grande, to discuss some other issues about rental properties here in Guanacaste and provide you with as much knowledge as possible. As always, I want to remind folks out there, if you haven't done so, be sure to log on to CostaRicaMatt.com and check out my V-Book. It is a complete video book resource that you can access 100% for free by logging on to CostaRicaMatt.com and clicking the giant V-Book blue button. It's pretty obvious. You can't miss it, or at least I hope you can't. Anyhow, folks, thanks very much for joining us for today's broadcast. We'll be back in just a second. Stay tuned. All right, Camille, don't you just love Fridays?
I love Fridays, especially when I'm invited to your broadcast.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Nothing is better than a Friday afternoon here in Guanacaste. We're going to go ahead. I need to get the V-Book off of there. Sorry about that, folks. We're going to start pinging Camille with questions here about rentals in Guanacaste. Tell us, how do you see this rental season going so far? And give us a little bit of insight into the trends that you're seeing.
Well, so this season, I think we're seeing the same situation as last year, as it's stabilizing from the after COVID craziness, I call it, because we had a lot of people coming and visit and eager to travel right after COVID. Now we are stabilizing back to more of a normal occupancy. And what I've seen though this year is that there is way more last minute bookings. So people don't book as much as in advance as they used to the past few years.
And do you have any idea why people are booking later and later?
Well, I have to say, I think the events in the US made people maybe not book travels, before November.
Yep.
Right. So I think people are, making travel plans. Maybe they didn't want to book, too early, not knowing what was going to happen. And now, finally go on vacation.
I think there's also just, the kids aren't the way they used to be. People book travel, so differently than my parents used to do it, where it was 6 months in advance.
Oh, yes.
You had copies of your tickets and folders and all sorts of stuff, and it's become so much more informal and last minute. So,
well, that's true. And also nowadays, people, they have to spend way more time looking for their travel plan and find the perfect place for them, instead of going to a travel agency where someone would just, point out the best options.
Well, we see that there's going to be more tourists this year in Guanacaste than in history, than any other year in history, if the projections are correct. Yet it still sort of feels very quiet in our area. You've seen a lot of people saying anecdotally that Airbnbs are open. What do you think's going on in terms of where people are going?
Well, I think what's going on is that we have in Costa Rica now way more luxury tourism that we used to get because of the services and the luxury hotels and gated communities available, and also because, let's face it, Costa Rica has become a little bit more expensive also to travel to than years past. So I think the budget also is more consequence than it used to in the past few years.
For sure. It's overall been a shift more towards luxury tourism than what perhaps you or I are used to in recent years.
Yes.
In light of what you're seeing, if people own rental properties here, what sort of tips can you provide to stay agile and adapt as, Costa Rica's travel changes?
Yes, well, locally you have many options, so that's great. Well, first of all, I always say, right, make sure your property is run by a good property manager, that your place is clean. I mean, it's the bare minimum to have a well-maintained, also looking like the pictures, right? Take good pictures, have a good listing, a honest one. That's the basics.
Yeah.
Right. And then after you can look, because it's kind of micro areas too in Costa Rica. So you can also look, okay, what's going on in my area? Do I have maybe shall I adjust the rates? Shall I adjust the length of stay? And there is something also that you can do when you have, for example, a 2-bedroom, and that's an example that I did. Is that you can adjust also your rates by the number of guests you're receiving. So let's say you have a 2-bedroom house. You can also have the opportunity to welcome couples if you lower a little bit the rate for 2 people.
Okay, absolutely. And as a rental owner, you can then offer a cheaper price, even though it's a 2-bedroom home.
Yes, and well, you're supposed to then think that the couple is not going to use this 2nd bedroom, so they're not going to use the AC in that 2nd bedroom. You know what I mean? So I think it's worth it to look at different options. One that is very popular also now that we have all these digital nomads looking to travel, and spend a few months, in the rental, is to also offer monthly rates. Right? Yeah. Do greater discounts by the month, and why not have a couple of remote workers for a few months, who's going to pay a discounted rate, but then they're going to be less demanding, I guess, and then you're less going to have check-ins and check-out all the time. So it's also a great way to host people.
Yeah, I think that I'm sure there are so many people looking for those longer term stays, moving between communities. They're exploring Guanacaste, digital nomads, and lots of properties are not available for even a month or 2. So giving those sorts of rates offers a really great opportunity to fill up your units.
Yes.
So let's say I'm looking for a 1-bedroom casita near a surf break, or let's say within a 5-minute drive to the beach. What sort of price? Let's talk about the price points currently. Outside of prime locations where everything is crazy, how much are you paying for your 1-bedroom home, a 2-bedroom, condo, a 3-bedroom larger home?
Yes, so I think, so of course we're talking about something nice, but nothing luxurious, right? In a beach town that's not the tourist hub. I think, for a 1-bedroom could be anywhere between $60 and $100 a night. Then 2-bedroom between $150 and $200 a night. And then for 3-bedroom between $200 and $300 a night, depending also of how many bathrooms, if you have a pool, if you have a garden, right? All the adjacent services also count for the property.
For sure. And I haven't been looking at rental properties lately. It's sort of, I lose connection very often with just how much things cost. I try to remember a little place from the last time I rented one, and it can be surprising how things change.
Yes.
So you own two rental properties or one rental property?
Two. Yes.
How are you setting your rates this year compared to 2024?
Well, so it's pretty stable, right? So then what I did in order to have a better occupancy rate, because we also have more inventory nowadays than we used to, especially before COVID, right? So now there is a lot of inventory, especially on Airbnb. So what I did is that I adjusted my prices per person, right, for how many guests. Then, the standard one remaining the same as last year. And then, offering discounts if you stay for a week, offering discounts if you stay for 1 month, offering longer lengths of stays also. And I also diversified a little bit because, I come from the hotel industry way before Airbnb existed. And so, I think it's always good to diversify. I mean, Airbnb is great. It's everybody, like you even call now your lodging an Airbnb instead of a house.
There was a time when Airbnb didn't exist. Are we talking about the 60s or something?
No, I mean, not so long ago, right? So I think also if you can diversify, if you want to diversify or ask maybe your property manager to do so, you have other websites where you could also list your property, because then different target of clientele use different websites. And one thing also, Matt, I think it's important to mention that here, never underestimate the local tourism. We have great Costa Ricans coming from San Jose, the capital, who want to spend some time at the beach. So it's also, a good way to host local tourism, and that who usually come more in the slow season.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. So it's a great source also of business.
Oh no, and Anne-Marie loved, especially you can look at how Costa Ricans vacation. Many of them come in, they're gonna leave their stuff or very little of their stuff in your house in the morning. They're gonna spend all day at the beach,
yes,
and then just come back at night. And it's entirely different. I also noticed, frankly, during Anne-Marie's years of management, Costa Ricans, they know what's going on. They speak the language. They're not fish out of water.
Yes.
They'd come and they were absolutely great guests who knew what they were doing. Whereas, you get U.S. people checking in, and sometimes they panic about the smallest thing.
Yes, which I understand. I mean, you're still traveling in a country in Central America, but that's what I was about to say. You probably save 10 or 15 messages a day when you have someone local who exactly know where they are and what they came to do.
For sure. Yeah, I want to, next I want to bring up the first of three properties we're going to talk about that are really just sort of rental focused properties here. While we find a good camera angle, let's go with maybe this one here. We're talking first about Cabinas Corazón de Tamarindo. Man, I said Tamarindo, the most gringo. Anyway, Cabinas Corazón de Tamarindo.
Oh, there you go, Matt.
Yeah. Located at an extremely strategic spot right at the crossroads, the main, sort of intersection that goes down into Tamarindo. They have 2 homes on the property. There are 4 apartments. The question I would ask Camille, sort of, how would you look at this property and try and get the best ROI from something like this, a setup like what they have?
Well, so first of all, Matt, I want to say I'm not exactly always looking for the best ROI, because I've been here for 15 years. And so, I think that, the best ROI is the life you get, and when you get to enjoy your property in Costa Rica, and it's not absolutely money driven.
Yeah.
But then, I love this cute Cabinas Corazón. I think the deco really stands out because now we tend to have, more modern style, all concrete. So personally, I love the colors, the wood. And they also have a great configuration. So then, when you have apartments, you can maybe dedicate 2 of these apartments to long-term rental, which is also a great source of business because we have lots of expats living here and looking for long-term rentals. And well, Costa Rica is no exception to the Airbnb effect, where long-term rentals has become more expensive, never available. So I think, when you have the opportunity to have some separate units too, you can maybe dedicate a couple of units to do this. And then, maybe focus on also monthly rates with remote workers.
Yeah.
And I want to say, like, if you have the opportunity to live on site, then you save, your rent and you really relocate and change your life.
Totally.
And, you get to give a service. I think, one of my insights from being from the hotel business is that Airbnb is great, but then now it has become this rental where you just put a code in a box, grab your key, don't meet anyone.
Yeah.
So, I'm always pro services.
Absolutely.
Right? I think, when people meet someone, maybe serve breakfast, and chat a little bit, and then also answer all these questions personally instead of having so many messages at the end of the day, to guide your clients who are trying to have a good time.
Absolutely. No, and we were discussing a little bit beforehand. You tend to feel that people are going towards more serviced travel in the future, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, well, that's my personal feeling, right, from observation and years of practice. I really feel like for me, the hotel business and hosting people has a lot to do with service.
Yeah.
So, again, Airbnb is great. People like also sometimes to be independent. What I love about Airbnb myself is that you have access to a kitchen, right? So you can cook because I love to cook. But then, I think people, especially in places abroad in a foreign country, are going to slowly go back to, why don't I go to an hotel where I would meet the receptionist, have the concierge tell me all about the tours instead of being like trying to figure out online.
Mm-hmm.
So I really think this hotel with service, is going to come back because it's been damaged by Airbnb, for sure. And also another great way to have a profitable hosting business today, especially in Costa Rica, is to host retreats.
Absolutely.
Right? Retreats have become way more popular. It's way more profitable for simple reasons. You have the place fully booked for a whole week, so you don't have like comes and goes. And then you have the adjacent, whether it's surf retreat, wellness, like you have all this other charge income that you charge to people, the meals, the massage, like everything, like kind of a all included and a special experience that has proven that, people love it and is way more profitable for sure.
No, absolutely. As a possibility for retreats and, especially even for groups to just sort of catch a stay here, this property is set up really well in that you've got a home with 3 bedrooms upstairs, this Caribbean wood place that people would, it's an attractive, fun place. They also have those 4 studio apartments, each with their own theme. So you could imagine those 7 bedrooms, the 4 apartments plus the 3 in the Caribbean home being set up as your students or whoever's on this retreat. There you've got room really for up to 14 people in a group. And then you're living up in the front in your house where you do have some privacy here in this red home up towards the front. So it gives you amazing flexibility there. I always think, it's also great to live in Costa Rica, and for people who own boutique businesses like this, you get to meet people from all over the world.
Yes, that's the best part, and that's why I still do it.
Well, and people are always so friendly while they're on vacation. It's almost annoys me that, people will want to strike up random friendly conversations because they're on vacation and really it's just sort of that atmosphere.
Yes.
And it can be like, Anyway, so
well, that's why the setup is important, and you pick your setup, right?
I was gonna say
you have to have the choice according to your personality, right?
Yeah.
Do you want to be fully private and don't meet your guests, or do you want to, like be the one giving the talk and the service and then sharing these great stories?
Yeah.
And then also have this reward humanly that you share this experience that this person is going to remember probably all their life.
Yeah.
The conversation around
you made friends and you stay pen pals.
Yes.
And then, a lot of times 10 years down the road, the people from Costa Rica are visiting, their friends in Austria or their friends just throughout the world. So that can be a very cool aspect, seeing people who own these types of businesses. I should have mentioned that if you wanted to learn more about Cabinas El Corazón de Tamarindo and the other listings we're discussing, you can send me an email directly using this address that is pretty easy to remember, matt@costaricamatt.com. We're going to ask Camille about the next business property for sale that we're going to look at is over in Playa Grande. And pardon me, I have a profile that's not from our website because the bookmark came up differently than I expected. We're talking about the Flor y Bamboo Hotel.
Yes.
It's glamping outside of Playa Grande, or really just walking distance from the beach in Playa Grande.
Yes.
How long would it take somebody walking down to the beach from Flor y Bamboo?
So Flor y Bamboo is tucked in a street, which is nice because you're not like inside downtown, which allows also this absolutely gorgeous oasis of a garden that they have there, and feel really in a special place in the jungle. And it's about 20 minutes walk to Playa Grande, and then the current owners, they lend bikes to their guests, if they want a bike. And so something also that I've been, living myself, and I'm sure you're the same, Matt, is that you realize at some point that many tourists rent cars, right? Like for me, if you come to Costa Rica and you don't have a car, you're going to miss out. I understand rental cars are a little bit expensive, so it's a budget. But then, you won't be sorry to have it. So then you can explore all these, micro areas that are next to each other and are completely different.
Yeah, absolutely. No, for example, someone could come to Flor y Bamboo in Playa Grande, and if they didn't have a rental car, it could take them hours of bus rides to get to Tamarindo, or they could just walk across the estuary.
Well, they have the taxi boat.
True. Absolutely.
They
can just take the taxi boat. Now, you said Flor y Bamboo, which has how many rental units? So
Flor y Bamboo has 9 bedrooms, and it has 1 container home for, staff or the owners to live in. So, this one is another example of a very good property that you could, adapt to whatever concept you want, because you could live on site or have staff on site who live on site. And then, have these 9 bedrooms with a capacity of 22 people to host retreats. Of course, the hotel has been running. It's the 10th season now that it's up and running. So it's really turnkey, you come in and you have a running business.
Hey, here's that garden you were talking about. You can tell that's 10 years in the making. Every square inch is a palm or a lengua de suegra.
Yes, lots of love put into the garden. And they also have a wastewater treatment, because this, from the day one has been a real eco-friendly project, which I like to acknowledge, because it's not easy, and it's not everyone who does a real eco-friendly whole project, from like the materials they use, the people they hired. This is really cool at Flor y Bamboo.
When you mentioned they're producing very solid numbers now.
Yes.
Somewhere close to 10% net cash return.
Yes, close to I would say between 8 and 10, which is for a hotel in Costa Rica, in Guanacaste, which is great.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Because you may be used to something else and be shocked right now, but really 8 to 10% here for a hotel with staff giving a service is a great return.
Oh, for sure. Well, if they're actually producing it, you will see, one of the things I've always talked about, really, the returns in Costa Rica aren't the biggest numbers that you find unless you're looking, let's say, at advertising pitches for various new projects. And sometimes you'll see numbers that go up to 15% ROI on a condo that doesn't exist yet, as one example that's actually repeated a couple times. 10% is where a great Costa Rica investment among many that we see can possibly perform once it's got the reviews, the management, everything flowing well. When you see numbers bigger than that, you should be a little bit suspect. A lot of times, people are kind of just being creative with their accounting, or in that big number, they've got so much of their own sweat working for the business and not hiring other people that it's a very false number.
Yeah, well, and sometimes people, I don't blame them. Maybe they don't know the business. Maybe they never rented, and they're like, oh, compared to, like, I don't know how they do numbers sometimes, right? Because hospitality is a real profession, you have to know what you're doing, really, if you want to make your life of it and your income from it.
Oh, totally. It's certainly a profession because I am an amateur, or rather a non-practitioner. We're going to pull up our third property here. Rancho Coco in Playa Negra is a little bit different than the ones we've been looking at. This is more of sort of a family compound on a hectare of property tucked back into a neighborhood near Playa Negra. There's a 4-bedroom main home. There are 2 1-bedroom apartments. Here I am enjoying a nice Imperial at the end of the photo shoot. Tell me, Camille, if you were looking at this property, what sort of business plan would you come up with as the best strategy for this? In that, would you steer more towards type of luxury family compound, or would you try to rent out individual rooms? Because you can rent out the individual rooms, the 4 bedrooms in the main house, everything separately.
Well, I would definitely go for the more high-end, family compound. Have the possibility to host as many people as possible. So I'm not sure how the bed arrangement is as of today, but in luxury villas now that are on the rental market, out of 4 bedrooms, maybe you have 2 bunk. Right? And these 2 bunk, you can fit 6 people. And then all of a sudden, instead of hosting 10 people, you're hosting 20 people.
Yeah.
So I think, for Rancho Coco, it's been so beautifully made and designed that we're clearly, I think more on the high-end luxury compound, and maybe host small retreats too, for, private retreat facilitators who want to have, small groups in a more natural, scenery than a luxury gated community, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. I could definitely see, they do have bunks in a couple of the bedrooms. It's funny for sure. And the 4 out of the 4 in the main home. They also have all kinds of extra beds, like in the apartments, etc. I think I can't remember the number that they mentioned, but it's above 20 that they can sleep in the full place.
Perfect. Well, and also something important to mention is that for me, like in this kind of property, you want to set up some kind of service. So here we come back. I come back with the service, but it's very important, right? So then, maybe you can set up a concierge who comes and meet with the client, the day after they come, and like arrange the tours and offer this also prior to their stay. And then, tell them you can have a chef, you can have the masseurs coming, like kind of also makes the whole experience that maybe they're going to pick your house over another one.
Yeah, for sure. Those experiential travel packages, not only are they going to make much happier customers, I think they're going to fit with this new trend of, people who really want to be pampered And also it's way more profitable when you start providing, $20,000 worth of services that you're, sort of making commissions on, cuts, etc. It's going to be an extremely smart strategy for a property like that. I really appreciate Camille joining me here today. I don't have her email typed into the software, or else I could put it up. If you do want to get in touch with her, it's Camille@cbpacificrealty.com. Appreciate everyone joining us today. Thanks very much. Have a great weekend and pura vida.